Good morning, guys. Good morning, everybody. I hope you are all fine this morning. We're going on our Kotlin lessons. Today, we're going with Kotlin lesson 5. So, without wasting our time, I would like to start up our lesson. As you know, as you remember, we're going on Kotlin lessons by using IntelliJIDEA development environment. This development environment supports many different languages, in fact. So I prefer to use IntelliJIDEA, this version, community version, for presenting you Kotlin lessons. And let's start with lessons 5 this time. Okay, so in lesson 5 we go on with 41, as far as I remember. Okay, we're describing operators in Kotlin. In Kotlin, we define a variable, my range, so it's gonna be one double dot 10, and I here define a comparison, so whether to find out 5 is in my range or not, and if this is logically true, this is gonna be printed this line. So it will be paraphrasing that 5 is in the range, and this is the end of the block. And just I would like to show you the result. It's building, and at the soonest time it's gonna give the result here. Okay, just we got the result. So the answer is yes, 5 is in the range, because in fact 5 is in range. This is the limit for 10, including not including 10, 1 up to 10. So the result is positive, result is true. And let's go on with another one. Here actually not in keyword, it means it does not belong to a range. In fact, just it can be guessed, and this is an example for loop. And here I again define a variable, my range, so it's gonna be within 1 double dot 10. So I here define a comparison once again, and this time I'd like to get variable x. So let's see what's gonna be the result. Our interpreter is a little bit slow this morning. Okay. Within the loop, the variable x is repeated 10 times. So in each time, the value of x is printed by means of this print line command. So 10 is included as a result of this loop. Okay, just I'd like to go on with another one. So here I'd like to show you the structure starting from 0 up to 10, and increment value is step 2. So it's gonna print out the even numbers. So I named it as even range, and for each iteration, for each repetition, x will be printed and automatically increase by 2. So just I'd like to show you the result. Okay, as I said, even numbers will be printed in a vertical manner, one by one up to 10, by means of these for loop. Let's go with our next example. Here define array, but not integer numbers, not including integer numbers. That consists of double numbers, floating numbers. So I'd like to calculate a sum. So in each iteration I have to add the previous value, and at the very beginning I here define a variable at double type, having a double type as initialized to 0.0. So this is the iteration structure, and I here define num in nums, but please do not confuse this, because these nums belongs to this one. Okay, this one. Okay. So nums will include more than one floating point members, and in this loop, for loop, each time num value will be added to this initialized sum variable. So at the end of the block, okay, at the end of this block, print line the sum of equals to this interpolation format. By means of this interpolation format, this is going to be printed. So just have a quick look. Okay, nums including these members, double array of, this is the keyword to define it, and this is the initialization for our summation variable, and double in nums, and okay, this is the short form for sum equals sum plus num. So let's make it run and see the result. Okay, sum of equals to okay, you see double precision of this number. The result is printed out on the screen. Okay, this is another example. I here define a function, greet user function. Okay, from now on I am starting with function examples with parameters, function parameters, and here I define the function here, and I call the function here. So it's gonna accept a argument, a string, and within the function this is going to be printed, and of course it can be called this argument, the value of argument, by interpolation, and in my main function it's gonna be called with this parameter, function parameters. Okay. Once again, okay, as it is expected, max argument is carried into this function when we recall it, and it's printed by means of this function method, hello max. Let's go on with our next example. Here I define another print sum function here, including two parameters. Both of them is integer, so num1 and num2, and I would like to get it printed num1 plus num2, the value of num1 num2 within this string, and simply I define I assign values to independent parameters a and b, like 4 and 5, and when I recall print sum function, I use these both variables as arguments when we call this function, in fact. So it's gonna stand for number 1 and number 2 correspondingly, and when I call this function, recall this function, of course this method will be performed when it is in order, and let's see what's gonna be. Simply it's they will be summed up. Okay, the sum is 9 and exclamation mark. Okay, let's go on our next example. I here define a get product similar to our summation example. This time, once again, number 1 and number 2 example parameters will be accepted from the user or within the program snippet, and the return value will be returned, the result will be returned as number 1 times number 2. So when I define the value for these variables, okay, I here define another variable here, so as to be product of, so as to be return of this function. Let's focus on here, number 1 times number 2. Okay, I accept this value, okay, by using a and b parameters that I defined here as constants, and because this is it cannot be changed, in fact. Okay, and here I want to get it printed in a method within our main function instead of get product function. Okay, just we'd like to see the result this time also. Okay, the product is 20 as we expected. Here the difference is that we preferred to use print line method outside of this function definition. We used it in our main function definition. Okay, let's go with function default arguments. I here gave a simple example. I define a function getSum, returning plus of addition of 3 numbers, 3 arguments, 3 integers, and within my main function block I assign values to these ABC variables, and within this main function block I use this print line method, so as to recall get sum function by using these ABC parameters, so as to 15 is gonna be 15. The result will be 15. Okay, let's go with our next example. Okay, this is another example for function with default arguments. I here gave the same example by two different methods. In this the other part all the same. Okay, just not necessarily mention the same things once again. Just I'd like to show you the difference. Here get sum to with get sum to function, I recall all three parameters. Okay, that I just before I assigned them with values, and here I once again recall this get sum to function once again. However, this time I use A and B parameters as it is defined previously. This time I reassign for number 3 a 0. It is up to us. It can be required to change or to initialize one of the arguments. So just this is an example to show this. I found it useful to present you, to show you this kind of method usage. And here named arguments, this is an example for named arguments. I here define two parameters, two arguments, number 1, number 2, and the name of our function get sum3. So return keyword by means of return keyword. Number 1 and number 2 is summed up and returned, and this is our main function. And within this main function, in a single print line command, I use this structure. I recall get sum3 with these parameter values. Number 1 so as to be 42, and number 2 will be 14. And let's make it run. Okay, as it is expected, 56. Okay, this is the end of this Kotlin lesson, guys. In our next lesson, we'll go on with our Kotlin programming lessons. Thanks for your watching me, and please be keeping peace and enjoy the remaining hours of this sunny day. Bye bye.